I am a victim of sexual abuse at my early stage.
And he came from behind and he hugged me and touched my breasts. I feel that my mother betrayed me.
The one thing she told me, and my mom keeps telling this to me, is but what we can do is protect ourselves.
So nobody comes out easily. The role of us as parents start way before an abuse happens. Because rape happening to me is a huge stigma.
I didn't even know I was molested.
If you are speaking up, you are already marked as a troublemaker. Any form of sexual act with a minor is considered rape.
I think everything that we should talk should be supported by data.
Even when she is thinking she's giving consent, she's still not capable of giving consent. Do not even talk about legit sex.
Considered to be shameful. Whoever has experienced sexual abuse, it's come first from their family member.
Irrita is dangerous for you. How is InfoPark today? There is a strange understanding that real men don't get raped.
Whenever it comes to any cases of sexual abuse at home, our own parents disappoint.
The Boston Catholic Church scandal, the boys who were abused by the priests.
Now, here is an instance when we are talking about long distance cousins or a powerful uncle, mama doing that. I came across two different cases. One is again a very long distant cousin of mine. Again, I keep changing the narrative of the person because I don't want the person's identity, because a lot of people might know who it is and that it is. So I keep saying long distant cousin, long distant friend, but they are not probably my cousin, or they are probably not my friend. But I'm just trying to, but the story remains 100% accurate. But a long distance cousin of mine, she came to me and she told me that her brother, now this, which is where I feel the most problematic ever, because uncle, chacha, not that I'm justifying that they can do it, but now
what do you
this
do
is
when it is your brother?
Your own brother.
Yeah.
Okay, so two instances. One is where she told that she found out that her brother was peeping through the bathroom while she was taking shower. And she didn't know how to react. I did ask her, did you mention this to your parents? She said, no. How do I tell this to my parents? And she feels dirty around her own blood, her own brother. This is one scenario. In the second scenario, she was this particular friend of mine was raped by her own brother, and she did speak out to her parents, and they come from a very religious conscious family. So they immediately took her to the Maulana and put a charada or something around her waist and told her that she is possessed. And she was raped by her brother for around 2 to 3 years. And here the parents chose to side her brother and told that you're possessed and that is why you're feeling your brother is actually not raping you. She then voiced it out to one of her another cousin, and the cousin then took over the action and beat him. But they all still live under one roof. So here is two scenarios I'm giving. Same situation, brother, sister, brother, sister. One chose not to talk to their parents and feeling dirty and still staying under the same roof, knowing that her brother is watching her while she's taking shower. And when we're talking about a house, a space, it's one bathroom. We are not talking about where she has a separate bathroom and he has a separate bathroom. There's this one common bathroom for all. And there's a second scenario where she was continuously raped by her elder brother, and she had the guts to talk to her parents, but including her mother felt like she was possessed. And because they come from a much more religious conscious family, they took her to Maulana and did some sort of purification, telling that she's possessed. How do we deal with a scenario like this?
The first scenario where this girl is experiencing this voyeurism by her brother, I don't know the age gap between them.
The age gap is just 2 years.
Okay. So the boy is also a young boy, right? Sorry. Yeah. So I would again go back to the family and how, again, once it is in that situation, there are two sides. How do you avoid such a situation happening? That is number one. Prevention is always better than cure, right? This kind of a situation happens because of this closeted nature of the conversation of sex. So here is this young boy in the middle of his puberty, maybe very, very curious.
Very, very curious. Yeah.
And he is just using the easiest way for him to address that curiosity, those physical urges that is normal for him at his age, because the normal ways have not been taught to him. Okay? The fact that his sister's body is the same as any other woman's body, and any other woman's body is the same as the sister's body, and it is the same body which his mother has, is not openly addressed in that family. That comes from this closeted nature in the way we deal with sex within our families. Is that a huge issue? No. I see the boy as much as a victim as the girl, and
Because even the boy needs some sort of.
he needs help. He needs help, but he's not also getting that help because of this whole lockdown on conversations. So it's very hard to put that burden on the girl, but the only solution in that situation is to actually, as a family, be able to speak out and talk about it. Like if my 10-year-old boy picks up pornography, I would want to be somebody who can guide him and tell him that no, you don't do that, because it's like really horrible images of sex, as opposed to a very beautiful thing that happens once you are an adult.
So, how do you normalize a woman's body or sex to a 14-year-old boy?
By not making it a conversation till they are 14. By keeping it as a normal part of your life. Okay, where if there are normal curiosities, you address it openly, honestly. You do not hide yourself and your body, or maybe period pads and stuff like that. These are all normal things. If we keep our normal functioning of our body as a normal thing, as part of conversations, as regular this thing, if the women of the family can very easily say that, oh, today I'm having a really bad backache because I have my periods, and it is something which the men understand from the very beginning, from the time they're a child. Like my son used to call our sanitary napkins as, oh, the diapers that mama and didi wear. Okay, because they bleed. Because he was wearing diapers at that time, right? So so for him, he grew up thinking these are all normal things. So he doesn't have any mystery about about his sister's body, because it's all there, open, everybody's talking about it, everybody's like open about it. So there are ways to actually bring up very comfortable kids who are very centered around their body, who have the ability also to process what is being given by the society and coming back to you, because they know the real confident source they can depend on is the parents. So coming back with doubts to your parents, asking questions, and of course it has to be greeted with good answers. So it is a bit of work for the family, and again, it is not just about these topics. It is about creating an atmosphere within a family where you can talk about everything.
Anything and everything.
Anything and everything. And that requires investment from parents. Okay, I am very sorry to say this, but I find a lot of parents, especially younger parents, spend, like, we go out to restaurants to eat and we see parents just giving to 2-year-old kids, giving mobile phones so that they can be on their mobile phones, and there is no conversation on the dining table. It's sad. You can't start talking to your children about sex if you are not talking to your children about
how was your day?
How was
What
your
did you
day?
do?
Or, flowers and bees and, whatever, about everything. You need to inculcate that conversation. You need to take the effort to inculcate that culture of conversation.
It's an
from-
effort.
Yeah,
It's a job. You have to do this.
Yeah, but it has great rewards also, Sandhya.
Yeah.
It has great rewards because children are so beautiful.
I mean, the moment you've decided you want to be parents,
You need to have a commitment
yeah,
to that process.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't have children.
Yeah.
If you don't have time for them, please don't have children. I always say
Yeah.
that. But once you have brought a life to this world, you need to make that commitment that this is a beautiful, untampered thing which has been given to you. It is for you to understand how precious it is
and nurture them.
and nurture them and create that. I mean, I feel my conversations with my children have given me so much. As parents, we have learned so much from them, from their ideas, from the way they look at the world. It's beautiful, it's brilliant. Things that we do not think of, they think of it. So we have to be open to all of that, right? That is where it starts.
The second scenario,
Yeah,
so
the
getting
second
back,
scenario,
where
yeah.
the parents
That is-
know it
that is
and
a-
they are in strong denial.
That is a purview of the law. I'm sorry, that is a purview of the law, because I have dealt with cases where brothers have raped sisters and gotten them pregnant. Okay, because I used to work in the children's home, for a government children's home, for a very long time.
In Kochi?
In the Kakinad Government Children's Home with the Social Justice Department, actually. Raising Our Voices, one of the first projects that they did was where we were the mentors of the Government Children's Home. And we used to have to handle cases where the girl would be left at the children's home because she has been abused. So the person who's denied the family life is the girl, who is the victim. So I'm sorry, these are purviews of the law. That is where the law has to step in. Okay? And that is what I was talking about, that in these matters, the law is very clear. A rape of a child, a rape of a minor, is a cognizable offense. You do not need the victim to file a case. Okay? If I know it, if you know it, it is our job to report to the Child Welfare Committee. That is why these structures are there. Okay? It sounds very scary. It is less scary than what happened to that girl. Right? And
But mentally, I think it. I mean,
Yeah, that is-
I read this somewhere that a lot of people do not want to file the case because they already went through a lot of physically and mentally, but post that mentally, it's even more tiring.
absolutely, I agree. Our justice system is really still in a very bad place when it comes to dealing with survivors of abuse. Okay, we are nowhere near giving the kind of support that survivors of abuse need. I totally agree with that. Is it better to just leave it under wraps? I'm so conflicted about this because an abuser doesn't abuse one victim. Like you were talking about your friend who was abused by her uncle. The uncle may have come and apologized to her, but I am very suspicious whether he did not abuse other children.
No, he did. He also abused people, women in his office too.
Exactly. And there would be other children also in the family.
Yeah.
I can almost vouch for that because abusers are usually serial abusers.
And they don't stop at one.
And they don't stop at one. Also because they feel they're immune to repercussions. So unless and until we create systems of repercussions, which could just be naming and shaming, outing in the family, not having them invited over for somebody's wedding, unless we create that kind of social cost for the crime, then we have no way to actually ensure that another child does not get raped, no matter whether he has apologized.
Yeah.
Understand?
Yeah.
So, one is the law, and going to the law has its repercussions because our law is very slow in delivering justice
Yeah.
to the survivor, and the cost that the survivor pays, she may think it's not worth it. I totally get that,
Yeah.
right? As an activist and a social worker, I would still say it is really the only recourse. Okay, and the way to do it is probably to find a support structure, lawyers, NGOs, which can support her in getting the justice that she needs. Okay, is one side of it. She does not want it to go to a level where her brother is in jail or something like that. She really needs to be able to break that silo somewhere. It is very sad that the onus is on her, and it should not be. It should probably be on the relative that you were talking about who took action for her. Again, the onus should never be on the survivor. It should be on the people around her. And if her immediate family is failing, then other people need to stand up, need to make sure that she's getting the support she needs. Naming and shaming is a very important aspect of that.
Yeah.
Okay, if I'm afraid, I'm not just afraid of going to jail, I'm also afraid of my name getting sullied. I'm this nice man. Everybody knows I'm this really nice man.
And not inviting to a party is one of the biggest thing you can give.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. But that's the thing, no one wants to take that after effects.
So അതാണ് അത്ര ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഇതും വേണ്ട അതും വേണ്ട പറഞ്ഞ പിന്നെ എന്താ what can we do? We have to go by the norms of natural justice. There are these concepts of natural justice, and an individual's life of degradation cannot be at the expense of social niceness.
Yeah. And when you're also nice like that, when you are giving a deaf ear or when you are ignoring such thing, you're
part of the problem.
Yeah. And that somehow is also your next generation will learn from it.
Absolutely.
Like for example, when I was going for this is 5 years back when I was in Bombay, I was just walking the road and two men on the bike, they just drive down, grab my breast and whoop, just disappeared. I don't know why, but usually I won't go and discuss this with my mom. But that evening I felt disgusting and I told my mom, hey mom, this happened with me. And her first reaction was, I mean, in this dark, why did you go from that road? And I told mom, it was like a normal evening. And the one thing she told me, and my mom keeps telling this to me, is, you think it is possible to change the men out there? No. But what we can do is protect ourselves.
I am sorry, we are not protecting ourselves. Okay, what we are doing is we are putting the burden of protecting ourselves on ourselves, which we can't do because we are not the people who are doing the action. Okay, okay, so again, I'm going back to statistics because this is my work. Okay.
Yeah, and let's talk about statistics. I think everything that we should talk should be supported by data and statistics.
So, world over, women show 3 to 5 times fear of outside spaces than men. And we know this to be true with our personal experiences, right? World over, women police and self-scrutinize themselves every time they step outside their homes so many 100 times more than men. So there is this exercise we do in ROV as a part of our gender workshops. We tell men to write what did they do today morning before they stepped out of the home to be safe. And maybe 1 or 2 things which they have to really think, they write down.
What they might have written? I mean, I'm just curious. What?
Silly things, nothing very major. I don't even remember anything very specific which came as, oh my god, you did that. Basically nothing. Okay,
maybe helmet.
Maybe helmet, yeah. Maybe they will say something like, oh, seat belt ittu.
Helmet.
Okay, and we tell the women to write. And the women keep on writing. So we have these boards, okay, and the women write. And we have to turn the page because they have still more things to write. And it goes on and on and on and on. The list is endless, what we do to ourselves to keep ourselves safe. And even after that, are we safe? No.
I mean, whenever you step in outside for a night, can I 100% guarantee that I will be back home safe? No.
My point is just the opposite. My point is that the danger does not lie outside. We are taught from the time we are little children that the danger lies outside. It is actually an instrument of surveillance. It is an instrument of control for women. To keep them inside, to keep them vulnerable. This is dangerous territory, I know, because most people will really feel agitated, but we have kept 50% of the population less able than what they can become by putting up this entire hostile barrier of outside. While women show this 3 to 5%, 5 times more, 3 to 5 times more fear of the outside, you know what actually happens? 95% of crimes in the outside space happen to men. If I have a girl and a boy, I would be more afraid sending my son outside than my daughter, because he is more vulnerable to crimes, to be victims of crimes as well as to commit crimes, because he is the one who has to deal with an ecosystem where drugs are being pushed onto him, alcohol and drunken driving is being pushed onto him, fighting is pushed onto him, street fights are being pushed onto him. Okay?
And most of the people dying in war are men.
Yeah. So men are greater victims of violence in the outside world, while women are greater victims of violence in the inside world. But what are we teaching our girls? Don't go outside. It is unsafe.
And men not to be inside.
This is what patriarchy is doing. Why do I have a problem with patriarchy? Because patriarchy is harmful not just to women, it is harmful to men. Patriarchy is what is teaching that men's lives are dispensable. Go die, it does not matter because you're a guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Put your life in risk. That's what a man is supposed to do.
You put your life in risk. Women don't risk yourselves at all. And you create these silos by which we are creating this completely disbalanced society where violence is bound to happen.
And this balance is bringing that balance. Like that's how it should be functioning.
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole reactions that we have. So Karyam, when mothers tell their daughters, "Anangalke maatam bettuvo, nangalkelle maatane." Nangalde maatittu nangal endengile cheyan pettayirunno. Adine oru kundu kornittundo sexual harassment and incidents.
Yeah.
Has it changed?
No.
From Nirbhaya to today, after pages and pages of telling women how to do right, send Uber number to your friend, don't sleep in taxis, make sure 3 people know where you are going somewhere, etc., all that. Learn martial arts, of course. Why not?
Yeah. So the first after the doctor thing, the doctor Kolkata case happened.
IMA,
IMA
and Lakeshore started these martial arts classes.
Yeah.
What happens to the woman who can't learn martial arts and can't defend? What kind of a society are we creating?
And I think the first of all the demands they were asking, I think the first thing that came was reducing the hours of working for women. And I'm like, that's not even the solution.
This is what we say, that any of these incidents, we talk about this public outrage and everybody, and you have to see it also in a gendered manner, because who are the people baying for blood? The rapist has to be hanged, the rapist has to be hanged. Who are they? They're mostly men.
Yeah.
Okay, our women have to be protected. This comes from patriarchy. Our women, our sisters, our daughters have to be protected. Even if I'm not your sister or daughter, I deserve a life of safety.
The fact that we have to cry for protection.
And the point is, ഇപ്പോൾ 50-70 വർഷമായിട്ട് ഫെമിനിസ്റ്റ് സ്ട്രഗിളിനെയാണ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഈക്വൽ അവേഴ്സ് ഓഫ് വർക്ക് ഇതെല്ലാം കിട്ടിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അത് എങ്ങനെ ഒരു സംഭവം ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് വന്നു, ആ സംഭവം ഞങ്ങൾ തിരിച്ച് ആ ലോകത്തിൽ പോവാനോ ആ സമയത്തിൽ പോവാനോ? That's what's happening. Things that women have fought, feminist struggles have fought for decades, get taken away in that one sentence that irritor is dangerous for you. No. Irritor needs to be safe for me. That is my demand and my right. Out of the society I exist.
And it's sad that in the 21st century we are still discussing this.
I know. What would make nights safe for women? More women. isn't it? It's just simple logic. Shops are open.
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, how is Info Park today populated by girls on the streets at 12 o'clock at night? All the shops are open. Young girls are outside alone, eating, drinking, chatting on the streets. That is what has made Info Park area. I come back sometimes from late from site and all, and I see all these girls, and I'm like, this is just so beautiful. Okay, so these are again, there are, I wouldn't even say like books or libraries, I will say entire universities and departments of research which has shown what makes spaces safe. Okay, instead of us being put in these little uh, glass bubbles and thinking that we are going to be within that glass bubble, we are going to be safe, while Supreme Court is hearing marital rape and saying, center is saying that marital rape needs to be looked at differently because marriage is a social institution. I'm like, it is the worst kind of rape, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because here the rapist is inside your bedroom every night. I mean, if you look at the present Supreme Court case that is going on with marital rape, and the deposition by the center, where the center is saying that marital rape needs to be treated differently because it has social and religious implications, because marriage as an institution is a social and religious institution in our country, etc. When I look at it as a woman, I'm thinking marital rape is really the worst kind of rape. Because that is where the rapist is inside your bedroom, right? And you are having to sleep with your rapist every day. So that is like the ultimate form of violation, because in your sleep, you are the most vulnerable, right? So this, when we talk about sexual abuse within inside spaces, which is your topic, there is inside and inside and inside, and your sleep is probably your inside most space, and there you are vulnerable to sexual abuse. And your government, who is also your government, right? You are a citizen of that government. You are part of people who have elected that government. They're saying somehow you don't have a right to be safe in that space just because you're married. Right? So that is where I think even these institutions need to start being questioned.
Yeah.
Because so they are providing so much of a cover for individual uh, lack of dignity and degradation that happens to individual people.
And I totally agree with you on that. I mean, you had mentioned that most of the crimes happen inside the doors, but the crimes that happen inside the door is something that we neglect and ignore because it's home, it's your people. So you cannot criminalize your family, you cannot criminalize your husband, or you cannot criminalize your relatives. That I don't know if it's an Indian thing, but that is somehow considered to be shameful, and where the victim is also always shamed for that reason.
It's not just an Indian thing, but yes, it is so much more in India, where this family unit is considered to be such a sacred unit that we cannot. Everything is subservient to that,
Yeah, yeah.
including individual dignity.
Yeah.
And one thing, Sandhya, like here we've been talking about women victims, but when we are talking about, especially when we are talking about children's abuse, boys are equally vulnerable.
Yeah, let's discuss, which is where exactly I was getting into, because as per the statistics, women are comparatively, it's bad that I'm even comparing here, but women are raped more than men. But when it comes to child abuse, especially at indoor spaces, there's no a girl or a boy, it's child abuse. So it happens equally with men
Absolutely.
and women. So let's talk about
Yeah.
again. I was discussing this with few of my guy friends and asked them what was their first sexual encounter and who was it with, and I mean, most of the men I spoke to, 9 out of 10 men I spoke to, their first, so that one person, he's never experienced that at all. But whoever has experienced sexual abuse, it's come first from their family member. So it's very disheartening to see that a guy being abused by another, like a male being abused by another male. And whenever, most of the time,
It will
Uh,
be a senior adult male member of the family,
yeah,
right?
yeah, like their uncle or someone like that, or their distant relative. And I know a case where one of my friend, in fact I was talking to him last night only, he was raped, not, and here he was raped, he actually used the term that he was raped by his own cousin brother. But what he said was, Sandhya, I was not just raped, I was also abused. He used to slap me and hit me and bite me. And they used to stay, it was a joint family thing. And he, again, now if you'll see, he's like this 6 feet tall built man, but back then he was just a small boy. And most of the guys don't really voice it out. I mean, while women still voice it out to their mother or their father or to their brother or to their distant relative, men, I think, find it extremely shameful on voicing this out. What is your take up on men being abused by male members from their family?
It happens a lot, I think, especially amongst children. But I also want to say that rape happens to adult men too. Okay, and yes, uh, our society, I think, still is grappling with the fact there is a strange understanding that real men don't get raped. So a big barrier for them to speak out is this loss of masculinity. Okay, this perception of being weak, which anyway from the day a boy is born we are telling them, oh, you are strong, you're strong, you're strong, you're not allowed any weakness, you're not allowed any failure, you're not allowed to even show that you are crying, you're not, so we really bring a boy up to being a man as this like this walking, talking war machine who cannot show any chink in their armor. So, how does that man go and admit that he has actually been violated? Right? So, it's the same thing for the boys. And yes, rape happens within a power dynamic. It is all about a power dynamic. So, just as what you were saying that women are raped more than men, yes, absolutely true. That is because amongst adults men have a higher power dynamic than women, but as children you are really on the lowest power dynamic, right? So abuse of boys, especially younger boys, is very common. It's literally, I think, 30% of boys have been raped or faced harassment before the age of 12 or 14, something like that. As they grow older, it becomes harder because, of course, physically also they are bigger. They can probably, defend themselves better or something like that. But boys who have been abused from an early age find it very difficult to resist abuse at a later age. Then comes Pinnaya in the power dynamic in the samsaram. Because you are being also taught, I mean, our family structures are also extremely hierarchical. It is like the worst form of dictatorship, I would say, where unless and until you are in that power dynamic, you don't have a voice, you don't have any way to, like defend yourself within the family. So how does he voice that he is probably having to say it, something has happened with somebody who is in a powerful position within that family, a senior uncle or a elder brother or elder cousin who is very evidently has a higher power position than this child, right? So എങ്ങനെ പറയുന്നേ അത് പറഞ്ഞപ്പോൾ ആരാ വിശ്വസിക്കുന്നേ? Those are the barriers. And I, in our experience, I have dealt with cases where there have been systematic serial child abuse even in say religious institutions and all. And we have to understand this also, that the position of an education institution or a religious institution when these abuses happen, because if it is happening, say, from a teacher or from somebody,
A religious teacher.
yeah, a teacher in a school or a religious teacher or a priest or something like that, they also have that social sanction, the social superiority. The child also has been taught from day one to look up to that person.
Yeah.
So, for example, a teacher or a spiritual leader, now if that person is supposed to tell you what is right and wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just as in your family the elders are supposed to tell you right and wrong. And so when something bad you are doing to that child is looking at it that, okay, I know I'm feeling horrible about it, but I feel horrible having my pavakya also, but my mother says that it is good for me, so this also is probably good for me,
Hmm.
right? So your entire value system, and there is a lot of conversations on this in the Western world. Very little conversation, actually. That the Boston Catholic Church scandal, and the books that was written, Spotlight, the movie, and all. In that, there was a lot of interviews of the boys who were abused by the priests, and they all of them talked about this confusion, that doesn't feel right. It feels really horrible to me inside me. But I have been taught to not listen to myself. I have been taught to always doubt myself and accept what is being told by this person because he comes from the house of God. Similarly, in a school, teacher is this person that we're looking up to. So, adella kainata aa kocheke, where does that kid have the confidence to challenge this?
Yeah.
Right? So it's understandable when they don't come out.
Yeah, but I think the reference that you gave, it's when it comes to religious teachers or teachers from educational institution, is exactly right, like eating karela or pavikya.
Yeah.
You know you don't like it, but you've been conditioned to think that this is good, so you are confused, but you eat it or you consume it anyway because you've been
because
told
people who you trust are telling you it is good for you,
it is good for
or it is okay, it is something nice, something good.
Yeah. So talking about sexual abuse at religious institutions, again, I've heard, and in my DMs also, I've received a lot of stories, and a lot of stories. One of them evidently coming out was a lot of my male friends. If I have to be very precise, if I have to say, I've heard 5 to 6 stories of my male friends being abused by their Maulanas. Because most of the childhood days are spent in during that, and I mean, even I have my female friends also. So in one particular scenario, this particular friend of mine told that how Maulana used to make him sit on his lap and teach him, and that is where he found it problematic. Another friend of mine told that, a female friend of mine told that the class used to happen irritanda samayata, like after 7 o'clock, all the kids used to go. So after the class, the Maulana used to ask her that, hey, stay back for
Stay
the extra
back,
class.
yeah.
And that's where she was raped. And then there is an instance where a church priest, talking about a church priest, where he raped more than 10 girls from one particular church. And I think this happened in Kochi. And now, but then I think after a point they found it out and the thing is there. But when it comes to religious institution where parents trust, I'm not talking about school as of now, because honestly, I mean, I just want to take up, I only know cases where people have discussed, so I'm only taking those cases which was written, discussed to me, or which was sent to me in writing. So I'm only taking those cases. So this was like, when you're, because I also come from a very religious conscious family where my parents used to trust me, trust the church, and used to send me for the classes, catechism classes, because you are in church, you are in the house of God. When you are sexually abused by in a when you're sexually abused by a spiritual leader, by the so-called house of God, how do you deal with a situation like this? Like, how do parents ensure that their child is at the right
Ada,
place?
that is the whole thing. If you read about the Boston case, okay, it's a very Catholic dominated area.
Yeah.
The reaction of the community was about how could this happen. So there was an ownership by the community. It was a reaction by the community which actually allowed this thing to happen, this thing to be challenged. and laws got changed. Previously, churches over there, they did not have to, I mean, they had the separate jurisdiction to handle abuse cases within themselves. And then it was defined that no, all abuse cases you have to report to the police, because it is a cognizable offense. Now, our legal framework actually makes that. Sexual abuse of a child is a cognizable offense. You are required to report it to the police. It is not something which you can settle in house. Okay, but over here the reactions are very different. So this is where I think community comes in again. I mean, it's the same conversation that we are having, from marital rape to child sexual abuse within churches or within temples or mosques, and I don't believe it's one religion or the other.
Across
I think
all,
it will be across, and it will come again as that power dynamic.
yeah, it all comes
It
back
all
to
comes
the
down to that
because
power dynamic.
here the so-called spiritual leaders,
Yeah.
they have a certain power.
Yeah, so it is for the community to stand up and say, ki, if something like this is happening, we don't want this person to be the spiritual leader anymore. Because our children are not, we need to have that relationship with God, which the church or the mosque or the temple is the mediator. And if somebody within that mediating institution is going against God's work and abusing children, then that person obviously is not the right person to represent.
And should be dismissed immediately.
And should be dismissed, should be criminal prosecution should happen against that person. Community ana the block under.
Yeah, but I think more than that, we have to accept the fact that this happens there.
Yes.
Because I think tomorrow, if anything happens in like our church or temple or mosque, from the kind of family values that we come, immediately they'll be like, no,
This
this cannot happen.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Why cannot it happen there?
And it is again the role of the society, role of the parents, role of the family, role of the larger society to understand and believe the child when that child is trying to come out, when that child is saying, no, I can't take this anymore. This is something which is really bad happening to me. Pehle to, for that child to come out, that child would have gone through a lot. I always feel that, for any abuse victim to come out, they come and break out, because we have created a society where coming out means you are the problem.
Yeah.
Right? So nobody comes out easily. Right? When that person comes out, the support that person needs, it is the society's duty to do that. It is the community. So if I am part of a parish and I am a faithful person and I am a religious and faithful parishioner, I have put my faith and trust in that institution. If somebody in that institution is not delivering a reciprocity to my trust and faith, then I should, as a part of that community, challenge that and say, hey, this person is not capable. They are damaging my house of God, where that ownership should be there.
Yeah.
Because my house of God is beautiful. It's
without, sacred.
Yeah, it is without any imperfection. So if somebody is doing something as violative, as horrible as abusing a child, that person is obviously a pretender. He has no place within that structure. As a community, we have to stand together and protect that emblem of sacredness, right? For us. That is.
Just bringing the end to this entire discussion. If I have to give my take on this entire thing, is when I see rape cases being discussed on a global level, we are talking about police, we are talking about laws, we are talking about Supreme Court, we are talking about judges and policies and everything. My biggest disappointment has always been that my own mother or my own father has not been able to protect, because whenever it comes to any cases of sexual abuse at home, our own parents disappoint us, our own relatives fail us. That one of my family members has already disappointed me, and when I voiced out, my parents also have disappointed me.
And think of how a child looks up to their parent. So when that person is disappointing you, it's
then how can I trust the police? How can I go out and battle when my own parents? Because I know for a fact that my first thing, my mom, when my breast was grabbed at the age of 17 when I went for an evening walk. My mom asked me, why did you? Yeah. But I always try to understand where our parents are coming from. So I remember my mom telling me that when she moved to Bombay, she also was a part of this problem. And she didn't have anyone to voice it out. So she was like, if possible, upon then just slap them. Otherwise, just avoid the situation. My mom told that since the time, like during her earlier days in Bombay, she also went through. So for me, it's always.
But that doesn't justify, no?
It just doesn't.
If I went through something, I don't want that for my daughter, right?
Yeah, and
I
when
want
it
something
happens,
better for
so
my
the
daughter.
best way is just protect yourself.
Yeah.
Just be indoor, because what she's seen her entire life for the last 58 years is that these things will keep happening. Men will not change. This is our understanding. These things will keep happening. Men will not change. You need to protect yourself, and if possible, just be safe.
Okay, Sandhya, so what do we do to do that? We stay indoors. Okay, what happens when we stay indoors? We are stopping ourselves from becoming the best of ourselves, right? We don't earn as much. We don't have enough of a public life. We somehow actually feed that power dynamic hierarchy scale that we are talking about. We become less. When we become less, we become vulnerable to abuse.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah. So actually that narrative feeds this storyline of keeping women as victims.
And that's the narrative we have to break.
Yeah, that is the narrative we have to break. Because at the end of the day, looking at everything, my work as an architect also has focused on that, and that has been my learning. It is ultimately openness, transparency, communication, which actually solves these problems. Taking away this cloud of shame around these words, around these actions, and instead publicly talking about it and saying, hey, this is our problem. This is the problem, and let's address that, and let's stop making victims pay the price for something which they have no control over. That is where the solution lies. Openness.
Yeah.
That is where the solution lies.
So I think that's what I mean, I'm just saying it again, that after this entire podcast, even if one child have the guts, male, female, just to go and talk to their parents or whoever they find comfort in, or call it out and shame that person, or do whatever necessary action that will bring peace to them, I think we both have done our job. It's not, I am still finding my purpose of life, but for me, it's like maybe if I can just bring change to that one dinner table conversation, I think my job is done. My purpose of life is done. So thank you so much, Monolita. I mean, this was a heavy discussion. It's what, a Tuesday morning conversation, but it was an absolute important, very necessary, yet a beautiful conversation. And you come with so much knowledge and very interesting narrative, and you're always backing your conversation with stats and data, which is what I really like, because so that people are not just commenting on things. And just to all the people who are watching this, I recently came across one comment that why am I calling all people who are only addressing female issues, or why am I only addressing those kind of topics? So this is an answer to them. I am here talking about child abuse. This is across all the genders and everything. So if you feel that I'm here only to fight for women and fight for a woman or all of that, I'm a woman, and yes, I will fight for a woman. But here the topic is not two women and sitting and talking about how women should be treated, but we are talking about how the system should be changed, which is safe for men and women both. So thank you so much once again. You want to say anything as like a closure statement?
No, I think it was very good. It was a really nice chat we had. And yeah, there is a lot about this. I want to address the point you said about why not men. Of course, we are talking about men.
We're talking about the system, which
we are talking about a whole society where men are as much victims. Because I don't think a boy is born a rapist. You know, there are so many things which make him into a rapist. And a lot of it is this very cancerous society we have created of hush hush and not talking and not being open about things. We must be able to accept our problems and address them head on.
Yeah. It's a collective responsibility. It's a collective
Only
responsibility.
then there is a solution. This is a really bad issue of abuse that we have within our society, and it is afflicting one half of our population. And I think we really need to take responsibility for it as a society and work on it together to
Yeah.
address it.
And family, like we Indians are so proud about our family values. It's just me telling out that, hey, when we're talking about all the good part about it, there's this dirty part about it that needs to be addressed, which we are not addressing just because it's so uncomfortable. And that's the whole point about this podcast, is we bring those topics, those narratives that are not generally discussed in your dinner table conversation. So thank you so much for watching the show, and I'll come back with the next podcast. Till then, do not forget to like, comment and subscribe to the Mumbai Malayalee show. Thank you.